Welcome to the TikTok podcast. The clock is always ticking, so let's synchronize our watches and dive in. I'm your host, Callie Brigham, and I'm here to help you make time for what matters. Welcome back to the show, everyone. It is a feature Friday. That's right. That is when TikTok expands and you get to meet some of my best girlfriends, some of the women that I admire, some of my heroes. And today is no different. It is my honor and privilege to introduce to you a extremely gifted and hardworking mama. And you're going to be blown away by some of the things that she's going to share with you, some of the tips, some of the inspiration. We prayed right before we started recording this podcast, and we just prayed that her contribution would help women today feel seen and heard and understood and not alone. And I believe that's what she brings to the table. And she brings a lot to the table, and it's a big table. It's a big table. So I'm excited to welcome to the TikTok podcast my friend Chelsea Perry. Hey, Chelsea.
Hello.
Okay, if you're watching on YouTube, you can see how dang cute she is, and she has some sassy, fabulous hair going on today, some bright colors.
Yes.
Chelsea, you're bringing it with us today, aren't you?
Oh, you know it. I'm ready.
She is ready. She is ready. Okay, I'm going to give a super quick intro for everyone listening, and then I just want you to just pour into us, Chelsea, because you've got a lot to give. So,
Thank you.
Chelsea is married to Ricky. She is in ministry full time. Chelsea is an author, and we're going to talk about that because you're going to want her book, her new book that she released. Don't worry, I'll put all the info in the show notes. Chelsea is a mom of 3 incredibly gorgeous and fabulous and gifted kiddos. Not only that, but she is a business owner as well with her own tutoring company. I mean, Chelsea, you are wearing a lot of hats. I just want to put a crown
Thank
on you.
you.
One of those hats needs to be a crown,
I
okay?
left that one at home.
You should always carry a crown with you. You never know when you're going to need it. And hey, a good friend adjusts your crown if it's
That's
crooked
right.
too, right? Okay. But your crown is on straight today. And as I mentioned, you have so much going on. I know that a lot of people can relate to a full plate.
Yeah.
So how do you do it? Like how is this possible, Chelsea? I know
Yeah.
that's an open-ended question, but let's hear it.
So it takes a team and it takes a huge family of support. And I would be foolish to say that I did this alone. Um, with my tutoring business, I have a secondary client or secondary tutor that I just hired to help manage the load because it was too much for me to handle. And part of being able to do it is knowing your limits. So when you identify, like, this is what I have to give, this is what I'm willing to contribute, and when you reach that threshold, it's really important to establish that boundary for yourself to say, I know that I need to either step back or I know that I need help, and then to go find it and to make sure that it's something that is still serving you. And so, doing everything, like, I believe that everything you do, you should do it with everything you have. So, when I'm going into tutoring, I'm with that student. I'm not distracted and I'm not doing anything else. And when I'm writing, I'm writing. I'm focused on writing. When I'm with my kids, I'm with my kids. And there's nothing else that matters. When I'm with my husband, and so being really, really intentional is like part of the key of how I've been able to do all this stuff, because when I'm there, I'm present and it's not a fight between different activities or roles.
Okay, so first of all, I feel like we could just stop right here. Everybody could go home. They could put this into practice. But I want to take this a step further because
Yeah.
I'm just going to say it like it is. You're an Enneagram 3. I'm an Enneagram
Yes.
3. Sometimes we can feel like we should be doing it all ourselves. Sometimes
Yeah.
it is hard to have boundaries. It is hard to ask for help. So, was this something that you intuitively knew, or did you have to learn how to do this?
So I have a really good friend group, and some of my friends, like even you, Callie, I've been watching like your example, and I've reached out to you a couple of times, like, how do you do it? And you were like, I have an assistant. I'm like, well, that's an idea. And so the first time I hired an assistant was actually because of you. And I have not looked back. I've had a few different assistants because of, life changes. They move, they got hired somewhere full time and it just doesn't serve them anymore. But that is a really valuable part of what I do because I go by the 80/20 rule where I can offload 80% of what I do to somebody else and I focus on the 20%, which is what only I can do. So there's a lot of things like placing grocery orders or mailing things, like all this stuff that anybody can do and that I just it's better if I don't do it cuz my 20%, the writing the book, the work, the being an employee, the being a tutor, those are things that I'm called to do. And that means that if there's other things that I can offload, then I'm going to. So that was hard being a 3. I'm like, I want to do it all. I'm capable. I can do this, but it's just not best.
So I love that you brought up it's the Pareto principle, that
Yes.
80/20 rule. And it goes with everything. You wear 20% of your closet 80% of the time.
Yes.
You're in ministry, you know that 20% of the people do 80% of the volunteer hours or
Yep.
80% of the tithe or 80, right? It works in so many different areas of our life. How did you know what your 20% was? How
That's a
did
great
how did you
question.
have clarity to know this is what I should be doing and only I should be doing?
Yeah. I literally went through at some point, it's been a little while now, but I went through my whole schedule for the week. And I was writing down everything I was doing because I get this question a lot. How do you do it? And it's through other people. That's how I do it. And I wrote down, I'm like, okay, things that are non negotiable, like feeding the family. Okay. Do I have to be the one to cook? Do I have to be the one to place the grocery order? Do I have to be the one planning the meals? No, and it's not necessarily just, okay, I'm offloading that now. It's my husband's responsibility. It's who is best to do this. And something that Callie that you encouraged me to do was to ask my kids what it was like and what they receive, like how they perceive me as a mom. And not one of them mentioned like me cooking. Like that's not something that's high on their priority list. I'm like, okay, well, so then I don't need to do it. So as I mentioned, like that friend group, the really good friend group that has like held me accountable, that's helped me grow and develop, they also, being there for them and they help me identify things that I can offload. And that has been super helpful. And then just seeing how it works. So if I try to offload something and it's not done the way that I would do it, okay, I can coach it or I can, if it's done 80% as well as I would do it, then it's good to go. I'm like, okay. And I just decide that that's okay. I'm good with it because I don't even have to think about it. So knowing that it's done is a huge factor. Yeah.
That's a John Maxwell, leadership training right there, that if somebody can do it 80% as good as you can, then it's time to release it. It's time
Yep.
to delegate it. It's time to get it off your plate. And
Yeah.
typically, that person, even if they start around 70 or 80%, if that's a joy zone for them, they're gonna take it to 100
Yeah.
when you certainly couldn't before.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, this is such a great conversation. I feel like it is freeing for people.
Mhm.
It is actually a way to buy more time. I know some people think, "If only I had more than 24 hours in a day." Guess what? Now, you're a math tutor,
Yes.
right? And this is multiplication of your
Right.
time, right?
Right.
Yeah. Okay. So speaking of math and systems, so obviously you have a little leaning towards some of that because
Yeah.
it sounds like when you are gifted at math, you like order, you like structure.
Yeah.
Are there some time management tips that you do have since you do have so many different areas of your life? How do you organize your week or how do you sort your week that could maybe be a little light switch for somebody?
Yeah. So my week starts on Sundays, and it ends on Saturdays. And so what I like to do on Saturdays, that's my off day from everything. I unplug Fridays and Saturdays. And something that I love that you do too, Callie, so you said that you switched where you unplugged your internet and you're like, I'm done with work. And so that helped me a lot, just like disconnect and say, okay, now it's me time. Now it's family time. But at the end of every week, I reflect on the previous week and to say, how did I manage my time well? What worked? What do I need to stop doing? What do I need to start doing? And then how can I improve next week? So the goal for me is 1% better every day. And if that compounds into like 33% better a year, and as you mentioned, I'm a math person. So I'm like, my gears are spinning. And so I look at that and I'm like, okay, so 1% better every day. What can I do to fix this? So, some of the things that I use are a passion planner. I like to color code, and really, there are different planners that suit. Different people. I've tried the performance planner, I've tried passion planner, simplified, all those things. Just find a tool that works to be able to write out your schedule. I also use Google Calendar with all the different I have different calendars for everything. So I have a tutoring calendar, I have a personal calendar, a church calendar, one for my family, and everybody, I share it with the appropriate people. So everybody's in the loop about what's happening. And then some of the other things that I use, just like everybody else, Google Sheets, Apple Notes, shared notes. I mean, it doesn't have to cost a ton to be effective. You just have to use the systems that are available.
I love that you brought up the planner because it was either my very first episode or my second episode, I said time management isn't the perfect planner. So
Yeah,
there's not one. We're not gonna say, "Okay, this is the one that everybody
right,
has to use." It is the tool, though, that's most effective for you, and
right,
it's actually using it.
right.
Right? A pretty planner on a desk doesn't do anybody any good if
Nothing.
there's nothing in it or if it doesn't align with what your vision is or what your goals
Right,
are as well. Okay,
right.
so it sounds like you've got some clarity on honoring what happened, but wanting to make progress each
Yes.
week. I remember hearing a rocket scientist, literally, it was a husband of a friend of mine, that said a quantum leap is not a huge shift. And this is literally what he said, Chelsea. We did not plan this, by the way, any of this collaboration before.
No.
We're just like minded. He said that a quantum leap in physics, a 1-degree shift, if you
Mm.
project it out over time and space, creates a quantum leap.
Wow, that's crazy. I've never heard
Yeah.
that before.
Yeah. So you're on the hey, if you needed affirmation and confirmation that you're on the right track, that 1%. And I think we can get caught up in, okay, then if I want to be more like Chelsea and I want to be have more, master of my time, then I'm gonna have
Mhm.
to change everything.
No.
No, we're gonna make tiny little adjustments, little
Yep.
tweaks, little audits.
Yeah.
All right. So for those that are thinking, okay, I don't have that math brain. I hear that and I shut down.
Right.
Chelsea, you have written a children's book. I want you to talk
Yes.
about it because I want to promote it because that's how we roll. We cheer each other on.
Yes.
But that has taken creativity. So for those that are on the side of like, I just want to be creative. I just want to,
Yes.
create something beautiful and exciting or fun or whatever. Okay, you've done that too. So how do you get to be creative and pull that side of you and still stay in a lane where you're accomplishing things? And talk
Yes.
about your book too.
Yes. So I wrote a book called The Bristol Whistle, and it's about the tooth fairy. And honestly, if you would have told me 10 years ago that I would have written a children's book, no, I would have laughed hysterically because I am totally left brained. There's like, I'm creative. I like to draw, but hands down, I would rather do calculus. Like, that's it.
Okay, that quote will never be repeated, I'm sure, by anybody, any future guests. There,
Yes.
you might be the only one that would prefer calculus over
I
anything else.
know, I know. So what happened is I was having a writer's block, a creator's block, and in my role at the church, I was actually a creative director. So that was part of my rhythm. Like I was out of my comfort zone, and that's what great leaders do. They put somebody that they see potential in out of their comfort zone and see how they can rise to the occasion. So my leader was like, I see this in you. You can do this, and gave me an overwhelming opportunity. And daggum, I did the best I could. And I had gotten to the point where I was creating so much that I just felt like I had hit this lid. And so naturally, I'm a person of faith. And so I started praying for creativity again. And I started having dreams about fairies, okay? It was the weirdest thing. I don't dream about fairies. I dream about numbers and that kind of stuff. And so it became consuming. I think that's the right word for that. Where that's all that I ate, slept, breathed was this dream that God had given me. And initially, I was going to write a book about fairyland where they had all these different characters and that kind of stuff. And it just came to a point where the tooth fairy in my house was slacking a little bit because busy. She's a busy lady sometimes.
She's got a lot going on every night, right? Her planner is very full, Chelsea.
Yes. So then it started to become like a mom guilt thing on me, like a burden. And I was like, whose idea was this to put the tooth under the fairy? Because I need to go find them. They are not a mom. They must be that cool auntie over there. And no. So I was like, there has to be a better way. That's how, like, dreams or what is it called? The invention is necessity or birth out of necessity or something like that.
Necessity is the
Birth
mother
mother?
of invention.
Yes,
Okay,
there we
we
go.
got it, we got it. Necessity is the mother of invention.
Yes, yes, yes.
All of our listeners were, like, shouting it out. We got it. Okay, yeah.
We're good. So I'm sitting there, I'm like, there has to be a better way. So what does everybody do? We Google it. And I'm like, tooth fairy, why is the tooth fairy? Why is the tooth under the pillow? All this stuff. So there wasn't a better way. And from that point forward, I was like, then I have to create this because I know that I cannot be the only parent that is busy where, I want to make my kids a priority, but this is just one thing that is important to them that I just can't make it happen. So the whole premise behind the bristle whistle is that the tooth gets hung on the door in a cute little bag. So it's a little easier for the tooth fairy to find and we can make that happen a little bit better. So in summary, I had a creator's block. I prayed for creativity and God was like, boom, this is your creativity here. Children's book.
Yeah, and as if you didn't have enough going on with those children, with forgetting to put the tooth under
Yeah.
the pillow, with the ministry, with everything else.
Yeah.
So you decided that you were gonna take that on. That requires more time. That requires this
Right.
entrepreneurial spirit now,
Yeah.
right? So again, you are I think what I'm gathering is once you get clear on something, you are willing to prioritize that in your schedule. Would that be an
Yes.
accurate statement?
Yep. That's correct. And
But that time has to come from somewhere.
yes.
So, how do you balance that out, or where do you find it, or how do you make that shift?
So when I feel called to something, like for instance, the book, that means I have to reevaluate my schedule. So my 80/20 changes. And okay, well, if I'm going to be writing a book, then something else has to give. Now, it's not always something that has to offload my schedule. It may just be a little bit less sleep or a shift of sleep. Um, for instance, the producer of my book was in China, the creator, and so it's a 13-hour time difference, so their working hours is during our sleeping hours. So in that season of my life, I realized, okay, I'm going to be getting a little bit less sleep to prioritize this. And that's okay because I will take more time off a different time or be intentional about napping and we'll make it work that way. So just reevaluate my schedule.
I think that's powerful too, because sometimes we think, well, once I get something in motion, then it's just going to stay the same way throughout different seasons of my life, different.
Yeah.
But you're talking about a reevaluation. And how often are you doing that? Are you doing that? I know that you mentioned every week, but, like,
Yeah.
as a bird's eye view, is that when something changes in your life, or is it when the kids go through a new stage? How often are you making these adjustments and shifts?
Honestly, it's a daily thing for me. I go through, like, I know from a bird's eye view, um, I would say like really big. If I feel something is just changing, like my rhythm, I feel different when I do a certain task, that's when I'll go through and evaluate that. But honestly, it's a daily thing for me. I go through and I'm like, is there anything that I need to offload today? Because
Mhm.
tomorrow I want to be 1% better. And I can't do that if I'm carrying things over from today into tomorrow that no longer serve me. So every day, and it's not like a big deal. I mean, I sit in bed and I just think, or bath time, my favorite, bubble bath time, where I just sit there and think. And I'm like, just processing, meditating, and thinking about the day and how it played out the day before and all of that. So daily.
I appreciate that you said and clarified that it doesn't have to be a big thing because
Yes.
I think when we start to talk about that, people think they've got to carve out this Zen time where they've got all their notebooks and their
No.
tools and their so you're just talking about a quick little analysis, a quick little just checking through that day, checking
Yes.
your spirit, checking your capacity too,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Okay.
Sometimes it requires locking yourself in the bathroom away from everything else because there's distractions and you just have to be intentional. That's all it is. Daily intentional time to improve.
So, speaking of locking yourself in the bathroom or these bubble baths, one
Yes.
of the things that can fall short and that can be on the last of the list is taking care of yourself.
Right.
Now, I know that self care is thrown out a lot. And
Yeah.
I think, let's be clear, as Enneagram threes, it is important to make sure that we don't get to zero, get our battery negative. But let's also say if you're really passionate about something, there may be a short amount of time where you're just great gunning, like
Yeah.
going for it, and it might just have to delay a little bit time
Right.
for you. So I know you can probably relate and resonate with both of that. How do you take care of yourself, Chelsea?
Yeah. So my week, like I mentioned, it starts Saturdays. I mean, sorry, it starts Sundays and ends on Saturdays. And I make sure that the last 2 days are things that fill my cup. So Fridays and Saturdays, every single week, I'm ending the week with a bang. And I start my Friday with going to breakfast with my husband, and that's been our routine for like 2 years. And we always go out because it's something that we want to like just spend time with each other. We don't want to have to focus on do we have the eggs and the bacon and all this. Let's just go, and we go to the same place, and it's just intentional time. And then I have community group where I get to be around the women that I love being around, and that's a cup filler for me. And then that evening, we only let our kids watch TV a couple times a week, so Fridays and Saturdays. So we get to watch a movie together and eat. Like maybe we'll do a picnic in the living room. And honestly, like I just guard those Fridays and Saturdays. Like there are always people that are going to need tutoring sessions. There's always going to be people like I also do hair on the side and like just a little bit of everything, okay? But self-care, family time is a non-negotiable for me. That is part of that 20% that will always be there. And that I cannot offload that to anybody else. I have to be present with them. And my kids are going to remember the memories more than the times I'm not there. So self-care for me is I also like to get my nails done. So like I'll schedule my hair appointments, my nail appointments, all that stuff to make sure that I'm securing my own life mask. And then I'm super present with my family those two evenings out of the week for sure. And then I don't miss dinner or bedtime during the week. I don't schedule anything else during those times to be super intentional, to talk with them about their day and all that stuff like really that pours into me. That is like self-care for me.
I call a lot of that compartmentalizing, which I think you started this whole session, this whole conversation off by saying that when you're with your kids, you're with your kids.
Yes.
When you're with your tutoring student, you're with your tutoring student.
Yeah.
But what I hear now on this side of things too, a few minutes into our chat,
Yeah.
is that you are giving just as much weight to those things as well and not the leftovers.
Yes.
So that's, I think, the thing that most of us tend to neglect, which is
Mhm.
to schedule in those things because we think that we'll just find the time or make the
Right.
time, but that doesn't happen, does it?
No. No, because if you leave your time open, people will fight for your time. Everybody wants a piece of time. And it's not necessarily the people that will there's not a huge ROI. So spending and I say that like I'm a 3, so I say that with all the love. I don't mean to be insensitive, but they're just people that will I don't know how to say this like respectfully, but like drain. It's just a drain. They're not adding value to you. They just need something from you. And in those moments, like your family, if you look at it that way, because in retrospect, and that helps when you reflect over the day. But in retrospect, your kids are always going to be there for you. They need you. The people are so temporary in your life, and there's only a very few people that really deserve your time because that's the only fixed resource on the planet. So you have to guard that with everything that you've got for self care, for your family, and the people that matter to you.
I feel like there needs to be some asterisk, maybe even some fireworks, some like going off when you said this was a new thought for me, how you said it. When you leave your time open, other people, and I won't say it as good as you did, when you leave that time open, other people want to take it.
Yeah, because they see an opening and they've been waiting. They've been waiting to get on your schedule. They've been waiting, and it's tempting to wanna gift them that time because, well, you've seen your kids all week. So, in the moment, you think that somebody needs you, but you can't make decisions sporadically. You've gotta plan your week ahead of time and do schedule in that family time so that when something comes up, you can say, "Guess what, kids? Like, you don't have to say it like this, but I'm prioritizing you. Like, we're going to go do something fun because we've got 3 hours to do it." And then seeing the joy on their face and that ROI for me in the just being present, physically present, mentally present with them is worth everything. It's worth, like, that's it. There's nothing better than that.
I remember somebody saying, "When's the last time you really looked your kids in the eyes?"
Mm,
Because we're passing each other, we're busy,
yes.
we're here and we're there, and maybe we're even in the same room.
Yeah.
But when's the last time, and I'm saying that to myself too. I mean, my kids are now 13 and 14, and I'm blessed that I do work from home. I'm blessed that I have that
Yeah.
flexibility. But I'm just saying, like, Callie, make sure when they walk in the door today
Yeah.
that I look them in the eyes. That's just as much that those few seconds
Yes.
are just as valuable as anything else too, that
Yeah.
I am fully theirs in that time.
Yeah.
Mm, that's really good. Chelsea, all right. You've been just as good as I knew you were gonna be, and I think you might have to be a repeat guest. What do you guys think? We're gonna
I
have
love
Chelsea back. When the Bristle Whistle 2 comes out, right?
Yes.
Yeah, the sequel. And again, I want everybody, this is gonna be a great Christmas present. This is gonna be a great, and again, what ages right here? I know mine
Yep.
already lost their teeth, although I heard that Maddie might have to get her wisdom teeth pulled, so maybe we can have the tooth fairy come
Yes.
for Christmas Eve.
So 2
Um,
to 9. 2 to
2
9.
to 9, 2
Uh-huh,
to
the
9.
2-year-olds are it's before they lose their teeth, but they just love. The pictures are captivating and the illustration. So 2 and then 9 is right at that threshold where they may be able to help with the tooth fairy duties and responsibilities.
There you go, there you go, and I know the book is very inclusive, and
Yeah.
it is really, I think, a mass appeal, mass appeal.
Yes.
Alright, so Chelsea, as we wrap up this, and I know we don't want to because we could go forever, but this is time management and time mastery, so we can't talk forever. What last words of advice? I said at the beginning, our prayer is to have a woman say, like, "I see you, I hear you, I understand you."
Yeah.
So what would you say to them?
So, 2 things. I would say that everybody has 24 hours in the day, as you mentioned earlier, but you can easily multiply your time. And so don't get discouraged by being limited by that 24 hours because when you start thinking about who you can equip to help you along that journey, you can multiply your time significantly and really hone in on what matters to you. The second thing is positive reframing. So, whatever you have in your week that is a drain to you, start thinking about giving that a different title and walking through like something that really stinks, walking it through and reframing it. This is advice from Callie herself to me about one of the things in my week. And after I started doing that, you just have a better perspective. You have a better outlook. You wake up being more excited about the thing that is really not exciting to you. And you can also add yourself a little something at the end, like reward yourself. For accomplishing the thing that you hate. So those would be the two things. Multiply yourself and do some positive reframing.
And it's a perfect time to do that. We're going into the holidays. We're
Yeah.
in this spirit of gratitude and thanksgiving, and to reframe that and to have that choice. It is a choice. All of
Yeah.
these things that you said today are a choice.
Yeah.
So, because it's the holiday season as we're going into it, I have a gift to give you,
Mm.
and it's just pretend. It's just a pretend gift. But if I were to gift you 1 extra hour, it's a bonus hour. It
Yeah.
doesn't come out of any of the 24 hours, Chelsea. You can
Yes.
do with it whatever you want. What would you do with that hour?
To be honest, I would spend time in prayer. I would spend time really seeking the heart of God because He gives discernment. He gives an uninterrupted time, just time with Jesus, because that can surpass anything else. That God can give you discernment, can give you wisdom, and that would be like the gold mine for me, just to have a blocked time where I could spend time with Jesus.
Well, that is just why I love you so much. I mean, for so many reasons, so many reasons. What a perfect way to finish out our conversation is to
Yeah.
put everything in the right perspective.
Yeah.
All right, Chelsea. And now I was feeling guilty because mine was probably going to be like reading a book and I'm like, no, no, spending time with Jesus.
Going to the spa, that's yes, that would be my physical yes.
Okay, okay. If I gave you a second hour, I get
Okay,
it.
yeah.
No,
The hour number
that's
2 would definitely be spa day.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Well, I hope at this point everyone's like, if I had not heard of the bristle whistle before now, I want to support Chelsea. I want to support
Yay.
Chelsea's dream. I want this book in the hands of my kids, my grandkids, my nieces, my nephews, my neighbors. So run, and in the show notes you'll see her website and connect with Chelsea in that way. Chelsea, I mentioned a gift a second ago. You are a gift to me. Thank you
Thank
for
you.
your complete support of what
Yes,
I have just felt God leading and calling me to. You have
yes,
been that person for me that has just been like, "Hey, I wanna know, I wanna be here for you." And so I honor you in that, and I appreciate you,
yes.
and I just thank you for being part of this TikTok experience.
Thank you for having me. It's been a joy and a gift to spend time with you today.
Thank you. Okay, guys, well, we will see you and hear you
Yes.
next episode. Looking forward to it. Make it a blessed, blessed weekend full of intentional time for what matters. Thank you for joining me on the TikTok podcast. Please subscribe, rate, and leave a 5-star review. Your feedback fuels our mission to help you master your time. Set your alarm for our next episode, and until then, make every moment count.